When I next wake, my bedroom is dark and quiet. The first thing I'm aware of is my heart, which is beating painfully against my chest. Another nightmare? Another nightmare. Another nightmare. I put a hand to my forehead as I glance around my room. I notice that Klaude is lying beside me, undisturbed. The gentle rise and fall of his chest, along with his soft breathing, tells me that he is asleep. I find the clock in my room and stifle a sigh. You have a clock? Nice. It is just past midnight. I have no idea how long Klaude has been asleep, and I do not want to wake him. Sometimes, when the nightmares are terrible, I end up waking Klaude to discuss them with him. Other times, when I am sure he needs the rest, I do my best to forget the nightmares on my own. I could use some fresh air. I quietly slide out of the bed and make my way toward the door. I glance over my shoulder at Klaude one last time before quietly stepping outside and shutting the door behind me. The palace corridors are quiet at night, save for the muted footsteps of the patrolling knights. At first, I am at a loss for what to do with myself. I could sit in the garden, or I could walk through the hallways until the voices fade. My legs begin to move on their own. Every step sends me down the hallway and closer to a branching corridor. I am not entirely sure where I am heading, but I tell all of the knights I meet on my way that I'm only wandering for some peace of mind. I have just moved into the conjoined corridor when I see a familiar face. Princess? Jurian stops in front of me, her eyebrows drawn together in a clearly anxious expression. Good evening, Jurian. Good evening, Your Highness. Couldn't sleep? It has been a restless night. Are you still working? For a little while longer, yes. And what about you? Just taking a midnight stroll? I've bumped into Jurian quite a few times on these aimless night strolls, and she always worries. I was. There is no cause for concern. You say that, Princess, but any royal's actions are a concern to us knights. And now I have to keep my eyes out for both you and the prince. The prince? Rod is also up? Oh, no. Prince Lance of Brigantia. He was out here earlier murmuring to himself. That is a little strange. I saw him head into the dining hall last. I sent a few knights over that way just in case. Perhaps he just left his room for a midnight snack. Klaude used to be up at midnight all of the time when he first came here. It sounds like typical Brigantian lifestyle. Anyway, if you need anything from me, I'll be on patrol for a little while longer. Don't hesitate to call on me, Princess. I will not. Thank you, Jurian. Jurian turns to walk away, but then pauses to glance over her shoulder. Oh, and Princess? I hope we all get to practice together again soon. Yes, I hope so too. It has been a long time since all four of us have been able to participate in mock battles. You mean your double dates? Jurian flashes me a small smile before she strides away from me to continue her patrol. If Lance is up right now, perhaps I should go see him. Without another thought, I begin to make my way to the dining hall. Alright, gonna interact with little brother-in-law to be. Sure enough, the first thing I notice when I step into the dining hall is Lance, who is sitting at the head of the dining table, his hands clasped as if in prayer. He is murmuring something beneath his breath. Lance? Lance glances up at me, bewildered. His shock almost makes me feel guilty. Did I interrupt something? No, not at all. He lets out a deep sigh, his shoulders sagging slightly. A weight seems to fall off of them as he does so, and when he looks up, he once again exudes his usual cheer. I was wandering around the palace when I noticed the dining hall was empty. I wanted to sit down for a few moments to practice a speech, but... He looks down at the table. The downcast expression takes me by surprise, as it is very uncharacteristic of the usually very charismatic Lance. Sometimes I get so caught up in memorizing that I forget about everything around me. I'm sorry. There is no need to apologize. But you were practicing a speech For whom? It's fine. You do not need to speak about it if you do not want to. I'm about to head out again when Lance calls my name, making me stop.
Have you ever given a direct speech to the people, Princess?
Before, I used to shun people. I disliked going anywhere near them. Since breaking my curse, however, I have learned to open up to the townsfolk. The king has me address them directly on our monthly rides out to town. Of course.
I see.
If you're asking me that question, I am assuming that it is because you are practicing a speech for a big audience? Lance smiles a little half-heartedly.
I was. The moment Klaude became engaged to you, I became next in line for the Brigantian throne. Father has been waiting for me to give a speech officially announcing myself as Brigantia's crown prince.
The moment Klaude asked for my hand in marriage, he had to relinquish his position as the crown prince of Brigantia. It never occurred to me that Lance would have to take over something he was unprepared for. And how is the speech going?
Terribly. I die a slow death in front of large crowds. Klaude has always been better at speeches than I have. I prefer speaking to people one-on-one. Large crowds are terrifying.
He has stage fright? No doubt you both have your own strengths. Talking to so many people at once requires practice.
Right.
Lance still looks disheartened. The look on his face is so similar to Claude's that I cannot help the small stab in my heart. I mean, if your brother's so good at it and was preparing for it his whole life, he would probably be the best choice to help you rather than myself. You said Klaude is better at spotlights, right? Then he should be able to help you. The two of you are brothers. He knows you better than anyone else. Even though Klaude gets jealous of Lance frequently, the two of them are still brothers. I know Klaude loves him. And Claude's overwhelming confidence allows him to speak to crowds with ease. Most people find him very charismatic.
Hasn't Klaude been really busy recently? I wouldn't want to take away any of the free time he has with you.
Lance. Lance has a forlorn look in his eyes. He stares past me at the door, his eyebrows furrowed. Maybe Lance misses his brother. I mean, his brother did just disappear on him one day, and they had no idea where he was. And then suddenly he shows up back home, curse cleared, but then he doesn't stay there very long because he keeps coming here to visit Lucette. And then he's like, I'm giving up all of that to marry her. Good luck, little brother. You're the new future king. So, maybe Lance is just, overwhelmed a bit. Get in with the nickname. Llama. He flushes a crimson red that has me smiling despite myself. He and Klaude are similar in the strangest ways. You may as well ask Klaude. I wouldn't mind sitting in during your practices if time with me was ever a problem. Besides, I already get ample time with Klaude despite what he might say. Most of the time, he is just needlessly dramatic. Though I do have to agree that we have both been pressed for time this week. Hopefully, things will settle down after tomorrow's celebration.
I will try asking him then, though.
Say it more decisively. You will ask him. Lance laughs a little sheepishly. Then he clears his throat and speaks in a voice filled with conviction.
I promise that I will ask him.
Good.
Oh!
Lance looks at me wide-eyed. What is it?
It's past midnight, isn't it? I had almost forgotten.
Forgotten?
To wish you a happy birthday!
The smile Lance gives me is so shiny it almost sparkles.
A very blessed happy birthday to you, Lucette. May both your nights and your days be filled with endless cheer and good company.
Thank you, Lance. If Claude knew Lance was the first to wish me a happy birthday, he would cry. Well, maybe we won't tell him. The thought makes me smirk. My conversation with Lance is cut short after that when at one point, instead of responding to him with words, I respond with an unintended yawn. I excused myself first that night, relieved that my conversation with Lance has helped clear the nightmares from my mind. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. I am sure that Lance will be able to solve his problems with help. As for my problems, I push the thought of Claude's melancholy smile from my mind. For now, it is better not to think about it. Claude will want me to enjoy my birthday celebration without worrying about him. So for now, I will set aside these worries. I walk back to my room feeling a lot lighter than I had when I first left it. Yeah, we'll deal with that pretty soon. Lilies and roses. How cute. Yeah, my theory for Claude is that he's feeling a little lost now. Like he's kind of lost himself. He had to give up his position and his home to, now he's marrying Lucette. He's going to be ruling a foreign kingdom for all intents and purposes. The culture is very different from Brigantia by the sounds of it. He's going to be away from his family. If he ever wants to go visit his family, Lucette can't go with him, so his family has to come here, and there's always been like a sibling rivalry between him and his little brother anyway. Now his little brother's kind of taken his place, so I kind of feel like this route is going to be Lucette showing that Claude is unique and he's special to her, and not to forget that he's not just another face in the crowd. He hasn't lost his sense of self. He's still the person that she fell in love with, and he'll find his way eventually, with her help, of course. That's my theory, so we'll see. The hallway is lively in the late morning, but I barely pay attention to the servants I pass as I make my way through it. A few of the servants notice my hurried pace and stare after me, no doubt curious as to why I am rushing down the halls. I ignore them. What reason could Parfait have for summoning me so late? I was awoken this morning by a knock heralding a letter delivery. It was marked as urgent and had been sent by Parfait earlier today. Parfait prefaced it with an apology, then explained that she and Delora had something that they needed to discuss with me. Apparently it cannot wait. Everyone planned for a late breakfast today so I could sleep in, too. Claude was already gone when I woke. I was expecting as much considering today is my birthday, and he has been the one heading the plans for it. I have already told my family that I will be missing breakfast on account of Parfait's letter, but I have yet to see Claude. I turned the corner in a rush and only barely managed to stop myself from colliding with someone coming down the other side of the hall. Hello. Lucette! I step back from Claude as he stares at me, looking flustered as if he too had been running. I heard that you were leaving the palace for some personal business. Parfait sent me an abrupt letter this morning saying that she had something to discuss with me. Claude looks clearly disgruntled by this news. On your birthday? Oh! He suddenly falls to his knees and clasps my hand in his. I am startled when he presses his lips to the back of it and smiles. Oh, he's giving me his very best sparkling smile, too. A very happy birthday to you, my beautiful Lucette. My love, my sunshine, my beautiful betrothed. The greeting is so familiar I cannot help but blush. Claude cocks an eyebrow at me as he stands. He leans forward and plants a quick kiss on my lips. All right, now that I've done what was necessary... He looks at me again, disgruntled. They're really doing this on your birthday. Apparently so. Claude grunts a response before shrugging his shoulders. If that is the case... He takes a step toward me. Would you allow me to accompany you? I had something special planned for breakfast, but if you cannot be there, I would at least rather be by your side. I can leave early to make sure that things here are taken care of. Was he rushing to catch up to me for that reason? But if he tags along, won't he be even more pressed for time? But it's your birthday and he wants to be with you. Let him come along. He is the one that insists on tagging along, and I always appreciate Klaude's company.
Perfect. I will meet you at the palace gates in a few minutes then. I just need to tell everyone that I plan on being out for a short time.
He ducks and plants a kiss on my cheek before rushing off, leaving me to once again walk down the corridors on my own. I do not have to wait long for Klaude to appear at the gates.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Lucette.
He glances around the clearing.
No carriage?
I asked, but they have yet to prepare one.
Perhaps we should just walk to the marchen.
I stifle a sigh.
Relax, darling. Parfait and Allura have already waited this long. I'm sure they can afford you some time to breathe in some fresh air.
He holds out his arm to me with a flourish, a smile on his face.
Shall we?
I loop my arm through his with a resigned smile. We shall. The town is lively today, but still not crowded as it is in the afternoon. I really do feel bad that everyone went out of the way to eat breakfast so late on my account. I told them it was for some important meeting with Parfait, but still. What could be so urgent she had to call me out here now? Late breakfast? The walk through town is mostly uneventful. I am relieved that no one goes out of their way to speak a birthday greeting to me. When Emmeline mentioned Klaude wanting the townsfolk to celebrate with me, I was half worried that they would rush me when I came out of the palace. Yet the town is as it always is, which is a great relief. I greet people respectfully when they call out to me, but otherwise keep to myself. We are close to the marchen when I stop, hearing a conversation that piques my curiosity. I do wonder whatever happened to her. She was just here one day and then gone the next. Beautiful, mysterious women tend to do that, I suppose. Has Miss Karma been having some outings to find himself? She was mysterious, wasn't she? It's been years since she was seen. Maybe she really was just a fairy passing by. Or perhaps a witch. Her beauty was mesmerizing enough that she seemed more than just a human. She had a rather mysterious name too, didn't she? Miss Karma. Miss Karma. I cannot believe people are still talking about his disguise from 2 years ago. I mean, we are talking about the very beautiful Miss Karma. I cannot help but glimpse at Klaude, who is grinning at me mischievously.
Perhaps one day the enigmatic Miss Karma will appear in town again. Is she a fairy or a witch? None may ever know. It is indisputable, however, that she is the second most beautiful lady in the realm.
Second most beautiful? It is not like you to be so humble. Klaude looks at me pointedly. It was a compliment.
Well, she certainly isn't as lovely as another fair maiden that I know.
Klaude's only response is a wink. Very smooth. Very, very smooth. I continue to walk, my eyes now on the marchen. I wonder how the townsfolk would feel if they realized that Miss Karma somehow became the crown prince of Angielle. Cheated feels like it would be putting it mildly. When I finally arrive at the marchen door, I stop, relishing the nostalgia that comes over me. I do most of my magic practices at the palace and forest now, which means that I barely have reason to come to the marchen. 2 years ago, this place was lively, always crowded with patrons who were seeking to break their curses. Ever since I became the Tenebrarum Bearer and dispelled those curses on my own, the place has become significantly less busy. Now, it is just a normal tavern, though I hear many of the previously cursed still come here. I put my hand to the door and pause. It feels as if the marchen is holding its breath. Strange. I should make this quick. It's almost noon, and I cannot miss lunch as well. I turn the doorknob and step inside. I'm expecting quiet and serenity, but the moment I step foot through the front door, there is a loud outburst of sound from every direction of the room. I knew it.
Happy birthday, Princess Lucette!
The words are only the primary greeting. After them comes a shower of petals that fall from the ceiling. I realize as they fall to my feet that they are white. Lily petals, probably. Lily petals? I stare at the sight before me with wide eyes. The margin is mostly unchanged, except for a few flourishes here and there. Lilies line some of the shelves, and I can see through the doorway that the tables in the tavern area are decorated. Finally, I notice a group of people gathered by the door. I live for moments like this, where I can see our ever so stoic princess stunned into silence. One would hope that you would find a surprise party surprising. I came here for urgent business. The words leave my mouth before I can even think them. My cheeks are warm and my head is spinning. I cross my arms, my face still flushed with embarrassment. I turn to glance behind me and see Klaude looking at me. He is smiling at me smugly, as if in triumph. I knew this was all planned. You knew about this all along! But of course, I did help plan it after all. So what he said at the palace was a well-crafted lie? You forget that I am very good at keeping secrets. I step into the room, the surprise finally sinking in. I look around and see familiar faces I haven't seen in a while. Even more surprising, my family and Lance are among them. I knew it. I'm like, yes, late breakfast. Totally at the margin with everybody. Oh, that's why the carriage never came, because your family used it, and then Claude's like, maybe we should just walk, you know? Just have a nice jaunt through town. Alright, very well thought out. Very well thought out. I saw them all before I left the palace. How did they get here? When I ask for explanations, I am told that the royal family was transported to the Marchen by Waltz to use a transportation spell. Okay, you could use magic, I guess. Everyone else had been gathered in the Marchen before that, making arrangements and setting up the impressive array of food I can see in the tavern area. Although the venue is smaller, it is more comfortable. This is so much nicer than a grand party at the palace. No formalities are required. I much prefer the nostalgia of the Marchen to the stiff royals. I am led as the guest of honor into the tavern area. Ah, nostalgic indeed. There is, sure enough, a banquet set out on all of the tables. Some of my favorite foods are on the menu, and it is impossible to miss the drinking fountain. Is that? A drinking fountain filled with a special birthday juice, Princess! There are fancy goblets laid out just beside the fountain, already filled with the concoction. The goblets on their own are not telling, but I recognize the chameleon topper. So this is the juice that Emmeline was tasting in the dining hall. Ah, are we going to finally get his reaction to us calling it the chameleon instead of the lily? Emmeline moves to stand in front of the drinking fountain, a bright smile on her face. I notice Lance standing with her. More likely than not, he has been assisting her with us since he arrived. Emmeline gestures to the goblets in the drinking fountain behind them. I present to you Lucette's special drink, the chameleon! There is a round of applause, followed by a very confused muttering. Dolores snorts. Of course she would get it. And here I thought this was a celebration for the princess. Emmeline? Lucette insisted we call it that. Klaude looks at me mournfully. You liked it. I saw it. Don't lie to me. Did you really expect me to call it anything else with such a topper on it? But Lucette... I have no problems with the name. It was your idea, after all. Aw, the blush.
I'm amazed. I didn't even know you could blush, Karma.
Ha ha! Got him.
It is a trick of the lady, nothing more.
Everyone scatters in different directions at that point. Some make their way immediately to the food tables, while others begin to engage in conversation. It is a small get-together, but the people here are all comfortable enough with each other that it is easy for them to converse. Somehow, even despite the fact that the royal family should look out of place, they do not. Maybe it is the fact that they have already met everyone at the tavern before at the palace. Even Lance seems at ease. I am just about to make my way over to the large food display when a familiar voice stops me in my tracks.
What the heck is this new pose?
Please tell me you do this all the time on your route, because I am ready for it. Oh man, even Chevalier sparkles.
It's been too long, Princess. I miss seeing your radiant scowl.
Every time I think he's changed, this happens. Chevalier laughs when I frown at him.
And there it is. I'd much rather see you smile, though. It is your birthday, after all.
2 years ago, when I lived at Chevalier's Curse, he remembered that he was a doctor. He became more serious after that, and went back to his work with a commitment that surprised everyone. I hear that because his clinic is close, he visits the merchant often. How have you been?
I've been well, Princess. I have to thank you for your recommendation a month ago.
My recommendation?
You recommended my clinic to a renowned nobleman. Lord Decimond, was it? One recommendation led to another, and now I have an influx of patients.
I found out not long ago that Chevalier frequently refused gold from people out of his own selflessness. Because I could not convince him to take the gold, I recommended a nobleman to his clinic instead. Now he has no reason to refuse payment. It is my pleasure, but please make sure to keep some of the gold for yourself.
I hope you won't put Lucette's efforts to waste with your selflessness again.
Klaude suddenly stands beside me with a scowl on his face.
A pleasure to see you too, Your Highness.
Both men frown at each other. For some reason, they are still curt with each other. Can't imagine why. But do they really need to act like children? They both like you, girl, and they're both narcissists. They can't stand it.
Oh, Lucette!
Lance suddenly appears at Chevalier's other side with a bright smile.
I came to ask... Oh.
He looks at Chevalier, who is staring between him and Klaude with wide eyes.
Ugh. There's two of you. I would be Claude's brother, yes. I am Prince Lance of Brigantia. It is an honor to meet you. An honor? You're the renowned Angielle Dr. Chevalier Dumont, yes? Your reputation precedes you.
Chevalier eyes Lance skeptically. There's no way you're related to him.
You know me. And more importantly, you're being... nice to me?
His eyes flicker between Klaude and Lance. Sus. Lance looks at him perplexed. He looks a little at a loss. Klaude, on the other hand, is just staring between the two of them, unimpressed. Maybe I should say something? Definitely not praising Chevalier. That's just gonna... No, that's not going well. And Klaude is not really happy when I do anything with Lance, really. I'm gonna just not... I cannot help but recall my previous conversation with Lance. He told me that he is more comfortable speaking with people one-on-one, and yet he seems at a loss for words here. He needs to learn how to get out of these situations on his own. This will be good practice for him. Chevalier is still squinting at Lance suspiciously. The silence persists for a few more moments before Klaude breaks it. He lets out a deep sigh and steps between the two of them. You call me judgmental, and yet you're already assuming things about my brother. How very hypocritical of you. Lance is... Klaude shrugs. Lance is not me. No, Lance is definitely easier to get along with than Klaude. Ouch. Darling, you wound me. Both Lance and Chevalier laugh at that. Klaude scowls a little as he turns away and takes my hand. In the moment that Klaude looks away, I notice Lance flash a grateful smile at him. Aw, we helped the brothers. Yay! He helped out his little brother. So Klaude can actually be brotherly when he tries. Chevalier and Lance seem to become a bit more comfortable with each other after the interruption. Klaude pulls me away while they continue conversing and probably sparkling at each other. Well, at least someone gets along with that man. Everyone except you. Klaude shrugs. Some things do not change. We part ways after that, Klaude going to speak with my family while I make my way toward the Marchen borders. Hi, Waltz. Good to see ya.
Princess.
Waltz strides past the conversing Lance and Chevalier to greet me. If it isn't Angielle's favorite magician.
Favorite is a bit of an overstatement, but thank you.
How have your lessons been going? I assume they have been a success, as you haven't made my last 3 lessons with Delora.
I was actually going to apologize for that.
There is no need. There are young witches who require your counsel a lot more than me. Shortly after Waltz's curse was dispelled, he made good on his deal to help teach me magic. I used to see him more often before he decided that he was going to become a magic tutor for young witches. Waltz is very good with children. Noted for his route later.
How have your Tenebrarum responsibilities been? Princess?
I have been having more nightmares recently, but it is no cause for concern. Waltz, stop. I can see you already worrying.
It's in my nature to worry about friends, you know.
Waltz has been helping me remember some of my lost memories now that he is no longer cursed. With his help, I have been able to recall our previous friendship. Aw, my heart. Today is a day for celebration. You're not allowed to worry about me.
But...
That is an order from your princess. Walt smiles as he puts a hand on his chest and bows.
I have no choice but to obey then, I suppose.
Our conversation turns to more light-hearted things after that. The jovial hours pass by in a blur, with the exception of Jurian and Garland, who are both back at the palace because of their important night duties. Everyone I know is here. It is a pleasant break to catch up with all of them. Jurian and Garland, man, you guys gotta take a vacation. After some time, a large cake is brought floating in by Parfait. Whoa! Blue lilies and a glass slipper on top. Everyone in the room grows quiet as they gape at the massive size of it. The cake is 5 different layers, and without magic would have required at least 6 people to carry.
I was under the impression that this cake would be small.
Oh, but it is. Lance gasps aloud as he points at the cake. His usual composure is broken completely when he waves his hand in the air, a wonder-filled smile on his face.
A Brigantian top cake! I haven't had one in years!
A what? Oh, I've heard about Brigantian top cakes. They're incredibly difficult to make because of all the different layers. And the largest cakes are said to slant on account of them being so tall. You see, it is small. This one is nowhere near collapsing on itself. Klaude is filled with pride when he tells me that he commissioned some of the best bakers in Angielle to undertake the task of making the cake. While the actual decorating was done by professional bakers, the more complex details were apparently crafted by witches. Delora herself has made the trick candles on the top, which refuse to blow out no matter how many times I huff at them. I end up turning the fire to ice to get them to stop burning. Amazing. By the time everyone is done with their cake, the daylight has been replaced with swaths of gentle moonlight. The festivities are just about wrapped up for the night when Klaude approaches me, insisting that we return to the palace so that he can give me his last gift. At first, I assume all of us are simply going to be teleported to the palace, but my family insists that I go on ahead of them. Father has something he wishes to discuss with Delora and Parfait, and Ophelia is in a surprisingly animated conversation with a niece who is discussing some complicated recipe with her. I decide to head back to the palace early with Klaude after saying my goodbyes to everyone.